Okay, so here in Imperium Romanum, I guess I should go into what scenario I'm playing. I'm playing the first one, Marius versus Sulla. Quick description here. Marius is the general of the more popularis party, Sulla of the aristocratic party. And Marius has sort of been winning, but now there's an aristocratic revolt, and at the same point, Mithridates goes to war. This creates a neat little three-sided struggle. The game suggests that the optimal number of players is 3, but there's a fourth possible player. I'm going to choose to actually use that fourth player, even though it's not supposed to be the optimal, for the reason that there's a suggestion that the Mithridates player has a little bit of an edge in this game to begin with. One of the things he controls in the 3-player game, which is more standard configuration, is he controls the pirates and the Lusitanians. They become a fourth player, which is not necessarily aligned with him in the 4-player game. The only problem with the 4-player game is they're both minor powers, so things get a little fuzzy around the rules edges when you start doing that. Marius has most of the empire at this point. There's not a lot of empire. We got this little card here that writes it out, and I've got all the provinces written out here. But my pencil's not very good. It's a harder lead than I think is appropriate for what I'm doing. So I'm always torn between whether I should use hard lead or soft lead on this. Very clear that this lead is too hard. I'm able to write very lightly, which means I can erase, but there's residue, so I can't read, which makes it kind of difficult, but not impossible. Anyway, basically he has over here. Now we don't have very much Rome here. Let's see what we got here. Africa Proconsularis, which is old Carthage. Baetica Baleares, these are the islands. Baetica's over here. And Italia, Sicily. So this is not long after the Pubic Wars. Sulla's whole holding is Illyricum. However, he has support, and quite a bit of support, in Italy, including Rome itself, which makes Italy uncontrolled. And if Sulla can gain Italy, then he's in a position where he's probably actually the more powerful of the 2 players. But that's where the first key battle ends up being, over on the revolution side. Mithridates has 2 color groups, tan and brown. I believe they're both, Marius and Sulla are both A-quality units, which means can't build troops in Sicily. Can't build troops in Africa, which is a big deal. Historically, Marius got shunted down into Africa and a number of other places that you just can't build troops. Okay. Mithridates, on the other hand, has a quality of B, and we have the morales here. Sulla and Mithridates have 100 morale. Marius only has an 85. However, he has a larger tax base and larger income than Sulla. Mithridates' tax base matters, actually. I don't think I have that filled out yet. Shit. Yeah, I have not filled out his... I think I've got the values filled out. I just haven't put the actual tax base into play. And I haven't put his treasury and morale. Both of which are important because he uses 2 different accrual methods, or recruiting methods. The Pontic units, which are the tan ones, use the civilized recruitment, where they have a replacement rate and money they have to pay. Whereas the brown, I don't know what they use. I don't think there is a replacement for the brown. Oh, no. They use Roman recruitment, except that they can only be raised in Macedonia, Asia, and Lycia and Pamphylia, which is not owned at the beginning of the game, I don't believe. You'd have to invade it. And units raised in Asia and Lycia and Pamphylia cost you 50% more. The Greek colonies over there. All right. Outside of that, we have Lusitania, which is not a major power. It's supposed to be aligned with the Mithridates in the core scenario, but again, they're green CRB, replacement rate 2 or 6, and a morale of 100. They're only allowed to operate in Spain. If their morale drops down to 50 or less, their replacement rate drops down to 3. Now, beyond that, Egypt is a client state of Mithridates. Egypt is a corn supplier. It's a neutral corn supplier, which you can pay 4 talents per turn as long as Alexandria is not conquered by a hostile player. But you have to keep the water lane open from the pirates. And Armenia is a client of Mithridates, and that becomes active basically if the Romans get close to that deep into Mithridates territory. And Syria just has its own special troops. The chances of someone going into Syria seem pretty low. Okay. If the Romans capture Macedonia, they can raise their units there at 50% greater cost than normal. And we're using pirates and roads, the Civil War, of course, and the civilized recruitment. Now, the pirates are aligned with the Lusitanians. If they're Mithridates aligned, then it all is. The pirates are a lot more useful to Mithridates, but honestly, here's the big difference. Mithridates is set up to fight Sulla. The Lusitanians want to fight Marius, at least at first. So the focus of the anti-Roman functionality of the pirates is what's of interest here. So the pirates are more likely to be attacking Sulla if Mithridates is in charge of them. But because the Lusitanians are in charge, I think they'll be more likely to be screwing with Marius, which will help Sulla a little bit, and will perhaps make the Mithridatic forces a little harder to cope with. Rome's the capital. It's got a morale of 8. Okay, what are the victory conditions? Marius and Sulla have the same victory conditions. They have to be sole imperator, and Rome has to control Achaea, Epirus, Asia, Crete, Lusitania, Macedonia, and everything that the Romans controlled at the start of play. I would include Italia in that, even though no one controls Italia. This is a big deal. Basically, I have to make a conquest here, and I have to take these, and I think that's it. Either one of them can win with that. And this is at the end of 6 years. I'm not sure we're going to, I'm not sure what we're going to do if the Civil War is not resolved in those 6 years. Is it 6 or 7? 88, we're in July 88 to January 82. It sounds like about 6 years, but I don't know. Sometimes I am off by 1 errors in my mind. Okay, Mithridates himself has to control everything he started in play, plus roads, all of Achaia and Epirus, and 2 cities. One of them is this one, Dichikananum. And the other one, and I had the hardest time finding it, was the Cyzicus, which is part of Asia. And you might ask, well, why is that important? Well, not historically. I assume control of the straits. But why is it important to point that out specifically? Well, it's possible that Mithridates could still hold Asia but have lost that city, because that's not the capital. So it's kind of an interesting little thing, but it made it almost impossible for me to find. So I'm looking up here because, you know, it's got a CZ, it's got to be Slavic. Well, there are no Slavs. What the hell? I don't know. The Lusitania and the pirates win if Lusitania holds at least 2 provinces and there are at least 4 pirate units left on the board. Now, keeping 4 pirate units alive is probably pretty easy. So that victory condition is a little iffy when handed over to the Lusitanians, because honestly the Mithridates are not going to care about that. It probably means that the Lusitanians will kind of protect some of their pirates back here, because Mithridates probably doesn't have as much interest in wiping them out. Obviously Rhodes, though, can go hunting pirates. Hunting pirates. All right. Well, I was hoping to actually get started, but I think I'm running low on time. So I think I'm ready to play, but I'm not sure. I may not have filled out everything I need to. I hope I have. I can catch up if I haven't. The first thing, well, we run through. I set these up so I can keep track of whose turn it is. I'll pop them over when they're done. We always use that sequence. There's none of this, because this is not a mobilization turn. Diplomacy, I looked at things vaguely. You know, Marius is going to work with the Mithridates. Sulla is going to work with the Lusitanians. But a formal alliance doesn't really make sense. They're not in the same operating spheres. So no need for that at this point. The Lusitanians, pirates, are most interested, of course, in screwing around with Marius, and that'll make Sulla's job a little easier. By splitting it out in 4 players, I may be giving the advantage to Sulla, but that's cool because that's your historical result, right? And that's why I'm not really in favor of that optimal player count in this one, because I think the 3-player game, giving Mithridates the Lusitanians, given that they say it ends up balanced in his favor, is not good. So the next thing we go to is naval operations. Well, I don't think that Marius has any boats, actually. Let me see. Oh, crap. Yeah, the camera is difficult with these thin counters. This is not a problem when I have enough hands available. But without, it's kind of tricky, and tweezers don't really help when I'm working with my left hand. I'm too clumsy to use them left-handed still. That gets us to land movement, and the first thing we need to do is understand which chart we use for movement. And indeed, this gives us everything we need. So the Spanish areas have roads in them, but only Baetica is cultivated. That's important for stacking information. We have a little slice of non-roads in the Alps. That kind of makes sense. And you'll see that persists with roads, but wild later. And then when we get to Italy proper, it's roads and cultivated, as is Africa Proconsularis. We've got roads and wild going through Illyricum, the highway down to Macedonia. Macedonia is roads and cultivated. And Greece is no roads but cultivated. Asia is where things get kind of interesting. We're back to roads and cultivated there. Just because there's so much connection. Now, because of that, there's a lot of rough terrain in Italy we're going to be possibly moving through. That costs 1.5. Clear only costs 1/2. And is our goal to get Rome? Well, right now we have 5 grain, but we don't have any guarantee that we can hold on to that. We don't control roads, and the pirates would position themselves against us. And this is really the problem, is that if Mithridates has the pirates, he can make Marius able to take Rome without a problem. But as things stand right now, I feel like Marius can't really take Italy safely, i.e. he can't take Rome, but he can focus on trying to defeat Sulla. Now, he does that, and he puts himself at the full possible, if he's able to wipe Sulla out, he puts himself in the possibility of being fully in difficulty from Mithridates. But I don't see another path forward. Taking Rome and getting the economic base there isn't going to make sense unless I have at least the support of roads and some additional naval support. So leaving Italy uncontrolled and thus unable to build troops, unable to tax, is, I think, my only possibility right now. So I'm going to try to kill these troops in Ancona instead. That is going to have, you got to kind of understand a lot of what's going on. Ancona is a minor city. This is the tax value chart. This isn't the variable chart. I'm going to have to look up, I think minor cities are always a certain size. But I don't remember it. It would be easier to do the lookup, but I'm not going to play that right now. I'm going to have to show you kind of the way in which you make your decisions where you can move. The first thing I did was counted these, and there are 80 strength points here, which would be doubled to 160 plus 1 for the city if it's a siege. I counted up Marius's forces. He doesn't have enough to get a 1-to-1 attack with that. Is that bad? I don't know. Because I'm a +3 leader, I may be able to do a massive attack there at like 1-to-2 or maybe even 3-to-2. Look here, or 2-to-3. Now, I do need to look at all the die roll modifiers. Siege, you wouldn't get archer bonus, I don't think. But a +2 in basis doesn't do very well for me. If I rolled a 6, I would win. But otherwise, I'm in pretty bad shape, either doing nothing or not getting a victory. Now, I don't know, maybe, I don't remember what a retreat does on there. If I could get a 2-to-3, which, some quick calculation. Well, let's see if 2-to-3 would be good. That doesn't really do too much for me. It takes an ugly result out of the line at +3. I would still lose on a 1. Now, morale is close, but I'd need to make 15 up in order to get even morale. I think it has to be a full 50 to be a modifier, so I'm not going to be able to get a morale bonus off of this. There's no CER bonus, so I'm just really looking at the +3. I counted these guys up, but let's just think about what my supply situation is. So notably, this is within range, half a movement, or 1 movement point actually, plus the river. River adds another half. So 1.5 movement points to here of Ravenna, which means I can gather my forces for the attack here and successfully attack. Now this is adjacent, I think, to the Adriatic, as opposed to something larger. And I have another port on the Adriatic in terms of Brundisium, which I think is under my control. I'm going to have to look up which cities Sulla actually controls to make sure, but I'm pretty sure he only controls the 2 he's sitting in. Not positive. In that case, I have supply and could launch an attack with all my pieces. At the very least, I can launch a field battle, because a 1-to-1 attack or better, I'm pretty happy with going in with that +3 modifier for the leader. So I can definitely go with that. Over here, I haven't thought about yet. I'm focusing on this. I believe this is the main event. If I lose down here, maybe I'll lose overall, but in terms of Rome not gaining the requirements that it has. But I think the most important thing is, let's put Sulla in a bad position so that maybe Mithridates can finish him off or whatever. And then I can fight the Rome versus the world circumstances, which I think, if it comes about this early, I'll be able to handle. All right. Where does that put me? I don't know yet. There were a couple of things I had to look up, and I've forgotten them already. One of them is the count, and the other is whether or not I own Brundisium. A quickie, counting some of, or dropping some of the control markers down. This indicates everything Sulla controls. He controls a couple of things in Achaia and Epirus, and notably he controls Zizios, which is why Mithridates needs that back. That's already pro-Roman, as it stands. Haven't done my count yet. I haven't figured out that yet. There's a lot to juggle when you're making a decision in this. You know, it's funny, I played High Frontier last night, and there's a lot to juggle in that. This pales in comparison in terms of, you know, trying to build a rocket and getting it able to fly where you want it to go. But this still has a certain amount that you have to kind of grasp. Now, for me, comparing this to like 1809, I'm more familiar with the decisions that I have to make in this. I've played this several times. I've played 1809 several times too, but this many, many more. And so it's a little bit more comfortable to me. So I can't quite express how hard was it when I first started. I don't know. I feel like the decisions in this are more intuitive to me. I just have to know, am I in supply? What are my odds? What can I do? But little questions like, did I control this? Well, I had to look that up, right? So I don't know how difficult that would be coming at it the first time for me, and or without a lot of familiarity. Not that I've played this in, you know, at least 10 years, probably. You'd call it 15. But it does feel more comfortable than the operational stuff that Zucker does to me, which I have to kind of relearn every time how to deal with. Or High Frontier, which I've played, you know, I played that not that many months ago, less than a year ago, you know, and all gone already. I feel like those games, if I haven't been playing them within the last month, they just don't sink in and stick with me. Whereas this, looking back 15 years at least, it feels comfortable. Feels like I'm putting on a glove that fits, you know. Of course, that doesn't have to keep the mouth running, don't I? Of course, that doesn't mean that I like this any better. To tell you the truth, this always has, and I've mentioned this before, this always has a dryness and a, is that all feeling to it? Maybe because, unlike some of these other designs, there's less obscured from me, but also once I grasp the mechanisms to those other games, I feel like there's still important decisions to make. And this, I kind of feel like once I do the counting and everything, there isn't really that much to decide. Sure, there is. It's a war game, you know. There's a fair amount of emergent complexity, but you know, it's more, well, I take my odds and I roll my dice, and it's pretty obvious what I want to do. In that way, it kind of reminds me, with all the chrome that this game has, it reminds me a lot of, oh shit, now I've forgotten his name again. Oh boy, Joe Miranda's games. This almost seems like a prototype of what Miranda did with his Ancient series. It's not the same system by any means, but just in terms of, wow, there's all these little, you know, things that I can do to roll dice and everything, and, you know, with like calling on the gods or the donatives, which aren't even dice, but there's all these little mechanisms in play that try to obscure what your chances are, but that's all they really feel like, is these layers that don't really add any great interest. They just add clunkiness to the system. Okay, so I calculated out everything Marius has in Italy, and it comes to 164 strength points, which is actually enough to get a 1-to-1 on the siege attack if I do it in assault. I don't have to worry about being intercepted, and I can move everything here. I'll show you. That's 1 movement point, 2 movement points, 4 movement points, and another, that makes it to 5, all the way from here. Now these guys have an allowance of 10. The siege engine, or I'm sorry, the supply wagon might be a little bit more. That's 3 movement points to here, 2 1.5s. And then another movement point to there. So that's my 4 movement points. So I can even take that with me and save it. I don't see any problems getting anywhere else. This adds, what, 2 to the movement allowance? 2 to the movement point cost. I didn't count this in, but that's 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I wouldn't be able to get that up there if I needed it, but I don't. So I think I'm going to collide everything into there. Is there a danger in this? Could Sulla run around and capture everything in Italy and take it over? Yeah, temporarily, but that'll bring his attention over to me, and I'll have something else I can fight. Now over here, I'm a little more worried, because I got nothing, which means I got some problems. I want to withdraw and get myself into some location where I'm more protected. Although I am in towns in both cases, I think I want to gather them and fall back as far as I can. This is a major city, might be, or here. Either of these might be a good choice, simply because they give me a couple extra strength points. I think I'd rather get there. Were there roads here? Shit, I forgot. I think so. Yeah, there are roads throughout my Spanish territories, so we get a stream there that's plus a half with roads, so that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 8.5, 10, 12. So I can move here, and this can certainly make it down. And we're just going to fall back. I don't have a leader over there. I don't really want to send Cinna there, or Chinna. Movement by sea, I think it's 1 point per hex. I can walk. Oh, wait. Leaders walking on water, I think, is only certain scenarios. Let me look it up. That stack got too big for me to deal with, so it's all over here. Indeed, leaders can't walk over water in this scenario. Next scenario, they can. It's expensive, though. It's 3 movement points per hex, so I'd have to try to get to Tarkonesis. So right now, my goal is to wipe this out. I've moved there, declared an attack. That's sufficient for me to get to avoid the morale penalty. Now Sulla goes inside. It's a siege. Do we have a little siege marker? We'll put that on there at least temporarily. My hands are shaking tremendously. I've had, I don't know, like 6 cups of coffee, which is not much for me, but it's really hitting me today. I haven't been drinking coffee all that much the last year, really. Okay. So now the question is, do I want to attack at 1-to-1? And I'm going to have to look up all my modifiers, but I think I've got them all in play. It's basically just the leader. So if I roll a 4, which would be a 1, I still win the battle. It looks to me like no matter what, I am going to win the battle. Do I want to risk half my army? Or, yeah. I can't lose half of it, but I could, can I? Yeah, on a 5 I lose 80 strength points, which would be pretty big. I do have 1 unseasoned heavy infantry there, which will be upgraded. So I'll gain some strength off of the battle. I don't think there are any 24-point units. Those are bad because you can't always build them. You can't rebuild them, so you never want to take them as losses when you don't have any capacity to rebuild something. So, well, let me look it up, make sure I've got all the modifiers, and then we'll give you the die roll. I could sit here and siege it, but there's good reason to take things over, to get a battle over with quickly. So I'm not sure. I'm on the 1-to-1, I'm at +3. This die roll doesn't do me anything. The DE is not good. Wait, let me count again. 24, 20, 40, 60, 80. Yeah, it would be a 1-to-1. I don't know if I want to fight at 1-to-1. +3, 4 doesn't do anything. 5, I could lose 80 strength points on a 2. 40 strength points on a 3. And on a 4 or 5, I'd lose 20 strength points, which isn't much at all. And on a 6, I would lose nothing. I think I'm going to go for it. This is a hard decision because with Siege, I'm almost guaranteed. No, this is in supply. It won't attrition. Okay. As long as Sulla holds that. So yes, I must go for it. And that means I have to dig up a die. I'll be using an old age die because somehow that seems appropriate to this one. I don't like the dice West End gave were kind of crappy, actually, if I recall correctly. I still have them somewhere. All right, and you can see this is a highly random table, as kind of befits Roman situations. The other options I have, the morale's not going to affect anything right now, and a donative is not going to make a difference. Nobody can get to the 50-point difference. Everybody knows how much money they have right now, so it's not. tend to leave that as open information anyway. So we do it. Oh, 1. Okay, that has no effect whatsoever, so we're stuck here. And that's all she wrote. Now, I didn't have to do the assault to get rid of my morale penalty, but next turn I will have to do the assault in order to get rid of the morale penalty, or fight a battle somewhere else. That's no big deal, but that's where I am right now. And I believe that's the end. We did supply, siege resolution. Siege resolution would be the attrition roll, I think. But maybe the combat. I gotta look at this, because I thought if they're in supply, they don't suffer siege attrition. Still would suffer siege attrition here, but not on this turn because the siege just happened, and the unblockaded port gives it a -2. So it's fairly likely that you're not going to be forced to lose a unit. So trying to get this moving along seems important. That is the end of Marius's turn, and now we'll go down to the Sulla turn. And I need a break. Should have been done on the before already. It was during the diplomacy phase, the corn situation had to be resolved. I'm saying Marius supplied Sulla with corn, which may seem crazy, but here's the thing. If he doesn't, then the Roman factions will be having trouble continuously. First, over here, we'll have there's a chance of a corn revolt. I could buy 4 of the 5 corn from Egypt right now. Now, I got to check the pirates because they could probably prevent any of this corn from happening. But I don't particularly want Sulla to be having a problem as the Lusitanians. So right now, we're just leaving it as it is. Say the corn was supplied and we're fine. Next turn, we have to worry about the diplomacy of that a little bit more. But as of right now, the fact that they're willing to support this, Marius didn't try to prevent the corn. Now he's got plenty that he can send in to prevent that. Why does Marius not want Sulla to lose Rome? Well, then Marius controls Rome, and he'll lose it, and it's going to be this continuous drain on the morale of both sides. And that will cause the fall of Rome, basically, as if that keeps happening. Now, Sulla's situation's a little trickier than Marius's. Marius was able to say, hey, let's just gather everything. Sulla would like to crush Marius. However, he's got a long way to walk to get there. His morale is going to go down if he does that, because he won't be able to launch attacks. Definite problem. Have to consider this. Or do we try to beat Mithridates enough that we can turn against Marius? And that's the big consideration here. The situation is seriously exacerbated by the fact that I can't just strike across here. We got no roads. Macedonia has roads and is cultivated, so maybe we can hit here, but we can't go across Achaea and Epirus, and that's a big deal, because then it means we kind of have to march along the coast and take what, is coming there. What about this way? Could we get from Dyrrhacunum or whatever? That's 3, 6.5, 7, 8. That's too far. Here, 3, 6, too far again. So the only way I can supply that is to drag my damn supply wagon and try to fight. I'm not sure what the numbers are like. I've got about an equal chance of hitting Marius here, but I don't see how I'm going to beat Marius. And this is actually one of the things that really bugs me about this particular scenario. It's supposedly an even one, and I'm always worried that I just don't get it. You know, but how am I going to either defeat Marius? Basically, how am I going to defeat the Mithridatics? And if I do that, moving against Marius, after he's had time to start recruiting from all this territory sounds bad. But my forces aren't that much, they aren't stronger. My leadership's not better. I have a slight advantage in morale. I think I have to go after Marius. I don't see another way around it. And I feel like I've got most of the cards stacked slightly against me in that fight. Except for the fact that I have a navy. Take Sulla's force out of here. Der Hakim could well fall under Mithridates' control. If that happens, then the road up is secure for him. Of course, then the battle could end up in terrain that has roads, so you can actually fight in it. If the battling's happening in Achaia and Paris, it's really hard to see how either side can get a good grasp on it. We can see here. Okay, fine. We can take Achaia itself. Crossing to here becomes almost impossible, but Pharsalus, shit. And there we go with the thin counters that I can't fix. Pharsalus gives me supply to here. I don't know anywhere. There's a mountain in the way here, so I can't make it to there. Could make it as far as there in supply. But getting to here and continuing to move forward beyond there, that's all hard. You kind of need baggage trains for that. It becomes very slow and very, very painful to travel in that way. Of course, I can't really get through here without interference from the pirates, which I can blow through, but again, it slows down my movement. Boats, since the pirates are on board the boat, we're going to sail the Sulla over here and attack that. And that actually gets our attack points, our battle for the turn resolved, so we won't lose any morale. So we got something we can go take down. And I don't know, we ought to probably send the roads guys there. I don't remember stacking what you can carry. All this stuff becomes kind of internalized eventually, but I can carry 4 stacking points. Okay, so I can carry all of this. And we'll just sail 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever there. And this is just that. I don't think the pirates get anything special. I gotta look that up because they got their own special rules. And that's the cost of this game is, you know, even if you kind of understand the standards, there's still all kind of special rules scattered all over the place in that. Take care of our naval combats here. And we gotta look up rules on that too. We don't remember. Oh shit, there's an overruns rule? Not in this era. Okay. I knew there was one, I couldn't find it in the main rules, so I was like, well, what? Alright, naval combat. All friendly fleets, all light and missile infantry are added completely, and I think missile infantry counts in the optional rule for this, but damned if I know. So we look for the optional rules. Is it limited to? It does not appear to be limited to land combat anywhere. I assume cavalry does not help you in water, though. Although that's not specified. So we have basically a 1-to-1 attack here on the naval combat table. Except roads is special. So we go look up the roads rule, which I think is that they're doubled, but I'm not positive. Yep, this is the game. Doubled when fighting pirates. So I got a 2-to-1 fight there. but it's not land, it's naval, and we're knocking things around because my table's not very big. No modifiers, I don't think. Oh, we gotta look up. And this should be written down, but I may not have it written well enough that I can see it. I've got an A quality for the Rhodesians, and the pirates do not have CER. That doesn't sound right. All right, so we go back to pirates. They have a CER B. So this is the first time we get to look at this. A versus B, I get a +1. So 2 to 1 and +1. There's no retreat with naval combat. I get a 4. Okay, the defender loses 1/4 of his fleets, but rounded down, but lose a minimum of 1. So we have killed these fleets. So what happens? Well, Rhodes gets some morale for this, which is cool because they can actually be used against the Mithridatic forces as well, I believe. So how do we calculate the morale increase? Well, because this is not internalized. Remember, there's no morale with the pirates. There is CER. Well, we go find how that moves because looking at the rolls, it doesn't immediately become obvious to me. But I believe it is 4 stacking points for the Navy, 1 for the, I hope it's 4 for the Navy, 1 for the infantry, that's 5, plus 2 for just winning the battle. So Rhodes just gained 7 morale. And we find them. And I don't know what the hell we had, because I can't read. So we flip through and find what their initial morale was, and it's probably 100. Oh, maybe they don't have morale. No, it's 110. I just didn't write it down. So they were 110, and I said 7. So now they're 117, and this damn pencil doesn't allow me to read. These go over to wherever I'm keeping pirates, which should be the green set. Let's put them over here. Okay. That's a success there. Then over here, Lucillus has 36 times 390, 108, something like that, to 22. Let's make sure we have that right. Yeah. So 108 divided by 22 is not 5 to 1. So that gets us to the 3 to 1 table. We have a leader. That gives us +2, I hope. Damned if I remember. Does he have missiles? Nope. That's a 7. We destroy whatever there was there. So again, that's 7 points of morale. Now for Sulla, he was at 100. Now he's at 107. More pirates wiped out. You can see they're pretty easy to pick on if you have fair-sized fleets, but and now we go to what I was worrying about, which is the big thing, which is of course the land movement for the turn. Net effect is Sulla runs up here. He's leaving his baggage wagon to try to make its way back as best as it can. I can pick it up with the boats and sail it somewhere maybe. I don't want it to fall into Mithridates' hands, but I don't think Mithridates can walk that far. I'm not sure. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If he's got something fast, he can capture it. We're screwed. Let's leave a couple of light infantry behind with it, I guess. Leave it here. Can take a siege. That's probably the safest I can do. Do I want to put a leader with it? I don't know. I don't know what I'm facing. That's the problem, because a lot of this could come up too. 3, 6, 7 movement. This whole force could get there. Screw it. We're destroying our baggage train. Yeah, it serves no purpose unless I'm facing him, and I don't want to lose it to him. So we'll destroy it rather than be limited by it. And that should be the end of Sulla's turn. You just have to check to see that he's fed. No problem here, I think. Although I don't have a port and I'm not adjacent to anything, I bet you Rome can hold. Yeah, Rome can hold 8 stacking points. It's a major city. So we don't have a problem with that. These guys are in supply due to ports, although if Mithridates takes our ports, Sulla's in trouble. And Mithridates is perfectly fine fighting just one. He'd rather they keep the civil war going, but we want to gain things and build up our forces as much as we can. And that puts us now over to the Mithridates player. To do anything like effective planning, I've been kind of mixing up the phases, but I'm going to show some naval movement here. These guys pick up units that can fit. I got 4 infantry, 4 heavy infantry legions. That'll fit on 2 fleets or 4 fleets. So I can come out. That cost me 2 to pick them up. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 6 more to drop them off. 16. Putting them here. Now I can go somewhere else with these. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Some of these fleets came along the Black Sea. More expensive to move there. I can't enter Thrace. That's not part of Mithridates' territory. So if I landed troops there, I would cause the Thracians to appear. That's not something I want to see happen. I've got a fairly strong navy, so I'm trying to ship forces forwardish. I can actually reach here because Macedonia has roads, so I kind of want to try to figure out if I want to get that close to Lucilius. Here, he doesn't have... His navy is there, and that's a potential threat. Can't even afford to do that naval movement because I'm not in range of a port. So I've got to wait until this wagon arrives and try to take Actium here. I can't even attack it with this force. This force is probably overstacked where it is. I'm not sure, but 2, 4, 6, 7. I don't know. I can't count in front of the camera. 2. No, 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So 20, this is cultivated territory though, which means I need to find this. Cultivated rough can only hold 12, which means I could creep forward to here. This is cheap. That could get me 3. That would be as far as I could go. Or I could go here. I am actually probably in supply in this city because that adds another 8. So that can hold the 20. But yeah, it's really hard to get moving. Now I am attacking this city, so I'll be able... and probably this one. So I'll be able to... clear I can get 24 in. So I could move one of those stacks into here safely because I can get a 24. stacking points. But I mean, this is the kind of headache that you deal with if you don't have ports all along the way. Eventual attacks are going to be here, here, and here. These are all going to be 4-to-1 attacks. This one I have no bonus in. I have to check my numbers. I'm CERB, but I don't think that counts with cities. I'm not positive. Another piece of crap I gotta look up. Well, let's just do a roll and see what comes up. Without a leader, I would be potentially at -1. Which would be a 3. I'm not gonna have to worry about that. I do eliminate that. I take this city. What's that worth? Good question. Nothing. It's worth 2 for the battle. So somewhere I've got to remember that so that I don't write a lot of times here. So I'll do that by pulling this control marker out. But that gets me the important thing, which is a port. Now, it only supplies me as far as here. I think Corcyra is the port here, and it's not a port on Iquianicurus, which means we're going to have trouble reaching this no matter what. And, you know, if Sulla wanted to hold that bottleneck, he probably could. Just like Mithridates could actually probably hold the Macedonia-Achaean line. Because it's really, really tough to fight where there are no roads and there's rough terrain and stuff. There's just... But I feel like I have to win the Italia battle, and then I can do maybe a naval assault or something like that to get me into somewhere where I'll be able to expand from, someplace like Thessalonica or something. Down here, another big odds. Here, it's at worst an even die roll. And so that's successful. Another 2 points for the city. I had to put a marker there, but I can't afford to use these markers. These guys, did they want to move? Well, assuming I have 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, any reasonable amount I can move down as far as Thessalonica, which is the port that I was supplied off of. And over here, I hope I have more than 4-to-1. And that'll also fall. So that's 3 victories, which will get me 6 points of morale. I'll deal with the mess later. And we'll mark this as one of Sulla's territory. Morale points come off of Sulla because he lost those battles. But I forgot to give him 2 points for his turn because he has the imperial capital. And that's the advantage to keeping the capital. Now, if I recall correctly, maybe I'm mistaken. Oh, you do get the. Okay, so here's the reason you don't want corn revolts to be going every turn back and forth. You get the morale value of the capital, but there's an extra 10-point penalty for having a corn revolt, which maybe Marius wants to have happen at some point, but in order to hurt Sulla's morale. But right now, his morale is the lower of the two, and given his position over here, he's likely to lose territories in Spain. So he's actually in a really dangerous position. Was this wise? You know, did Sulla want to abandon the Macedonian line? I don't know. You know, we're going to see how this all works out. Now we're on the final of the powers, which is the Lusitanians and the pirates. I believe the pirates have special rules where they can't stack their fleets. They have to keep each fleet separate. Otherwise, they would be a really, really potent force. But as it is, they're kind of fresh pickings. The only real advantage is Rome doesn't have a very big navy. And of course, they don't want to mess with the Mithridates forces, because if they do, unless things are such where the Mithridatic forces are winning towards the end of the game, if they do, they're just kind of asking for Mithridates to use his navy against them and stomp them out even faster. So there's kind of an agreement there to work together, which works fine. In the 3-player game, Mithridates would be fleeing with the pirates anyway to deal with Rome. In the 4-player game, there's some potential that if the Mithridates player was well ahead, they could be used against him. Not going into too many specifics here. The pirates, they landed them on Egypt. They're able to get there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 10 movement points, 11 to here. That gets me, actually, it's 11 to here, 12, 13. Just dump them all down here. They could all have made it here. They easily have the movement to make it here. The question is, hey, are they in their 12 movement point allowance range of Crete, which is one of their, this hex was one of their starting locations, so they can drop down there. They couldn't get there from Cilicia. But by doing this, there's no grain that's going to come from Egypt, no grain from Africa Proconsularis, no grain from Sardinia, none from Sicily. There's only one grain available that Marius could ship to Sulla. So we're going to probably start seeing the degeneration of Rome. This might be enough to convince the 2 Roman factions to try to figure out a way to work together. The problem with that, of course, is, and that wasn't apparent to me right away, but the problem with that, of course, is Marius, if he's able to get Italy under his control, is in pretty good shape, as long as Sulla is willing to try to arrange for the grain to happen. I don't think it matters which player controls the pirates. Both Mithridates and the Lusitanians, if they exist as their own power, want the degeneration of a lot of court revolts, where, if both Roman factions dissolve, boom, Mithridates and the Lusitanians win, basically. They will be able to capture the territory they want. The Lusitanians, they did not initially hold Salamanca, so they captured these 2 cities. That gives them 2 morale each, so they're up to 104. On top of that, eventually, if they can hit, and I didn't mention this, but all cap letters, shouting, is an indication of the capital, because it's all capital text, of the province. If you can capture that, you're allowed to plunder. We talked about the plunder rules. For barbarians, that gives them morale, which is kind of cool. I forgot to take Marius's morale off. He loses 4 for these.